MkII just posted a 1:22.717 crossing start finish. There are just over 95 minutes left in this practice session. MkII is on his first practice flying lap. MkII is getting to grips with the ASRL T70 MkII Spyder in this practice session. With just 94 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Ryan Wilson has a best lap time of 2:36.015. Zahn is getting to grips with the ASRL T70 MkII Spyder in this practice session. David Zahn is in Crowthorne corner. David Zahn is on his first practice flying lap. Ryan Wilson posted 1:20.835 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time.
The time clock can be a cruel mistress that is all too willing to show you your faults.
Simon of the Desert has a best lap time of 1:19.508. Simon just posted a 1:19.508 crossing start finish. Simon of the Desert has a best lap time of 1:19.508. MkII posted 1:20.353 on his last lap, and will be pushing hard for an even lower time. With just 91 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Ryan just posted a 1:20.835 crossing start finish. Ryan Wilson has a best lap time of 1:20.835.
If there is still time on the clock, there is still time to improve.
Get ready for some high-octane action, as the drivers take on the challenge of qualifying at Kyalami 1967.
We're about to witness some serious heart as they battle it out for a chance at the front of the starting grid.
It's all about strategy in these early moments. MkII is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run and get everything just right. MkII is looking relatively composed going through Crowthorne Corner.
There's a great spot near here to kick back with a cold drink and enjoy the beauty of it all.
MkII appears focused and prepared driving through Sunset Bend. This is where the mental game comes into play. David Zahn is taking his time to prepare for his qualifying run.
These are the moments that really matter. Let's see if David can deliver.
David Zahn is working his way through Sunset Bend.
There's a spot near here where the teenagers sneak off to make out.
David Zahn is expertly commanding that car through Liucop Bend.
This is such a great track. I need to make it back here more often.
It looks like Stefano Amode is getting ready to make his move. He's taking his time to warm up those tires and get everything just right. Stefano Amode crosses the start-finish line at the end of his outlap. That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through Crowthorne Corner.
The ASRL T70 MkII Spyder is indeed a sweet-ass looking ride.
MkII is on his outlap. MkII is keeping his head down through Liucop Bend.
This track has many great straights and corners, but this one is especially good.
As MkII completes the outlap, he will be hoping there's enough space on track to fully attack on the flying lap. MkII is looking relatively composed going through Crowthorne Corner. MkII is working his way through Sunset Bend. David Zahn is on his first flying lap.
Zahn certainly is nailing this one. This is shaping up to be a great performance.
David Zahn is in the green by 0.11, making his way through Jixkay Sweep. David Zahn is driving through the S's. David Zahn has completed that flying lap in 1:20.105, which is good enough for P3, down 1.024 to the leader. Adam Keefe is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:18.473. Adam Keefe is now up 0.16 in Liucop Bend.
This is where drivers have to decide to push for more or just try to maintain it.
David Zahn has some work to do, as his best time of 1:19.900 is only good enough for 6th. Stefano Amodei has some work to do, as his best time of 1:20.671 is only good enough for 7th. Bjorn Hemmen has some work to do, as his best time of 1:21.153 is only good enough for 8th.
There's at least 2.68 seconds to be found, but Bjorn Hemmen may be looking for it in the wrong places.
Bjorn Hemmen is 0.15 up driving through Crowthorne Corner.
All we can do now is wish Bjorn Hemmen luck as the start-finish line approaches.
Bjorn Hemmen appears focused and prepared driving through Clubhouse Bend.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
Mellero will be happy, with a time good enough for 3rd in this qualifying session. Simon of the Desert has found an extra 0.34. Simon of the Desert will be happy, with a time good enough for 3rd in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 0.647, but that won't stop him from trying.
Narwhal has improved by 0.61. Narwhal has some work to do, as his best time of 1:21.506 is only good enough for 9th. Bjorn Hemmen is up 0.32. Bjorn Hemmen is expertly commanding that car through Sunset Bend.
I have always loved this section of the track.
Bjorn Hemmen is driving through Liucop Bend and is up 0.64.
The rest of this lap is no cakewalk. Let's hope he can keep it up.
Bjorn Hemmen has some work to do, as his best time of 1:20.459 is only good enough for 7th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 2.024 gap to pole.
There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks good driving through Clubhouse Bend.
Fans sitting near Clubhouse Bend get some of the best views of the action.
David Zahn will be happy, with a time good enough for 5th in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 1.356 gap to pole.
Kevin Lekmansky is in the green by 0.13. Kevin Lekmansky has improved by 0.17 up through Liucop Bend. MkII has found an extra 0.12. MkII has improved by 0.26. MkII will be happy, with a time good enough for third in this qualifying session.
It may be difficult for him to find that missing 0.507, but that won't stop him from trying.
Kevin Lekmansky is up 0.14. Kevin Lekmansky is currently up 0.19 going through the S's. Simon of the Desert is in the green by 0.1. Simon of the Desert will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session. Narwhal is keeping his head down through Liukop Bend.
If Narwhal listens closely, the sounds of cheering fans should just barely be audible over the roar of the engine.
Narwhal has some work to do, as his best time of 1:20.423 is only good enough for seventh.
There's at least 1.993 seconds to be found, but Narwhal may be looking for it in the wrong places.
David Zahn is up 0.32. David Zahn will be happy, with a time good enough for fifth in this qualifying session. Narwhal has improved by 0.4. Narwhal is now up 0.52 in Sunset Bend.
If Narwhal gets greedy, this delta could go from green to red in the blink of an eye.
Narwhal is in the green by 0.4, making his way through Liukop Bend.
There's no guarantee that Narwhal can maintain this delta through the rest of the lap.
Narwhal has some work to do, as his best time of 1:20.233 is only good enough for seventh.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure he will keep working on that 1.803 gap to pole.
Ryan Wilson has some work to do, as his best time of 1:19.431 is only good enough for sixth. Ryan Wilson has put in a great effort and currently holds sixth. With the session winding down, time is running out to unleash his full potential for a better starting position.
Couldn't agree more, Hal. Wilson is positioned impressively in sixth. Now, he'll need to build on this foundation and strive for an even better race result.
A solid performance from Simon of the Desert, currently holding down P4. However, with the session coming to a close, he'll need to find that extra bit of speed to move up the grid.
Absolutely, Hal. Simon has put in a remarkable effort to secure fourth. The competition is fierce, and he'll need to stay focused to defend the position.
Simon of the Desert has lost 0.58 seconds so far through Liukop Bend.
Simon is likely taking a deep breath to try and refocus his efforts.
Simon of the Desert will be happy, with a time good enough for fourth in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. He is surely working on that 0.576 gap to pole.
Bjorn Hemmen has secured a respectable eighth in the qualifying session. This is a great spot to use as a launch pad for a strong race performance.
You hit the nail on the head, Hal. Bjorn Hemmen's current position of eighth is a testament to his skill and determination. Now, he must stay sharp to make the most of this opportunity.
Bjorn Hemmen has some work to do, as his best time of 1:20.459 is only good enough for eighth. And there goes Simon of the Desert, currently in P4. He's shown great skill and consistency so far, but with a few minutes left, There's still a chance to improve on that time.
Absolutely. How? Simon has shown great potential to secure fourth. It's now a matter of channeling that momentum into a strong performance during the race.
Simon of the Desert is working his way through the S's.
The action and glory drivers have lived here at the S's is truly historic.
A solid qualifying performance by Lucas Crow, positioned in 10th. The question now is whether he can make further progress and challenge the frontrunners.
I couldn't agree more, Hal. Lucas Crow has done a fantastic job to claim 10th. The challenge now is to convert this opportunity into a strong race result.
Lucas Crow has completed his outlap. Lucas Crow appears focused and prepared driving through Crowthorne Corner.
To see the best action, you can't go wrong here at Crowthorne Corner.
It's a beautifully calm day here at Kyalami 1967, as we're getting ready to kick things off.
The drivers are looking focused out there on the grid. I'm excited for this one, Hal.
Kevin Lekmanski is starting this race on pole.
Kevin is sure to be excited at his prospects for this race.
MkII is starting this race on the front row.
This is a great place to be, but there's always the threat of drivers right behind getting a better start and a slipstream into the first turn.
As the drivers prepare to take off, MkII sits in third place on the starting grid.
Big things expected for MkII today.
In the fourth position, it's none other than Simon of the Desert.
Another good start for the American driver.
Lining up in fifth is David Zahn.
David will be ready to show what he's made of.
Ryan Wilson will begin the race from the sixth spot on the starting grid.
I think we are all looking forward to seeing what Wilson can do from here.
Lucas Crow will be looking to gain ground quickly, starting from 7th on the grid.
That ASRL T70 MkII Spyder looks like it has some potential.
Narwhal is 8th.
It's the standards tires for Narwhal.
Sitting in 9th is Bjorn Hemmen. Stefano Amode has qualified 10th.
Stefano does not always keep it clean, but when they do, they excel at gaining positions.
Nils Shepard will need to be on top of his game, starting from 11th on the grid.
He's a fighter, and he won't give up until he's crossed the finish line.
The flag drops, and the race is underway. Drivers now face the challenge of avoiding first-lap calamities.
Staying out of trouble in these early moments is crucial. It's a fine line between pushing hard and staying safe.
The drivers are jockeying for position. Kevin Lekmanski will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate his position. All the drivers will be trying to take advantage of the pack whilst they're still bunched up.
What a beautiful day for racing here at Kyalami 1967. This is going to be good to watch.
The tensions are high, and no one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap. Safety car is still leading the field after several laps.
This is really putting the drivers to the test, having to stay focused and ready to pounce at a moment's notice.
It can be tough to keep your adrenaline pumping when you're driving at slower speeds, but they can't afford to lose their concentration. Wait, green flag, the wait is over, and the race resumes.
It's also a challenge for the teams. They have to keep their drivers calm and focused despite the frustration of being stuck behind the safety car.
The racing is normally closely fought here at Kyalami 1967. I think we are in for a cracking race.
I for one am really excited, Hal. The rivalry between MkII and MkII has been building before the race, and this is where scores are settled.
The stewards will be hoping that there aren't too many incidents for them to pick over when the dust settles on this one. As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race.
It all comes down to this, Hal, where the rubber meets the road. There's no more time for talk, no more practice. The teams have done all they can. Now it comes down to Lucas and Crow to bring it home.
The pressure is really on for Simon of the Desert in 10th as David Zahn is closing in. This is where experience and skill really count. Braking alert. This is a disaster for Simon of the Desert in the ASRL T70 MkII Spyder coming into the pits. This isn't going to do much to improve his chances in this race.
That's going to be a big disappointment for him at this stage. Let's hope the team can regroup and make some sort of recovery.
No room for error here. Ryan Wilson is breathing down the neck of Bjorn Hemming, waiting for the perfect chance to make his move. Braking alert. I don't think that's the fastest way around Kyalami 1967.
Kyalami 1967 is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
Kevin Lekmanski seems to be putting the pressure on Ryan Wilson. Hold on a second. Looks like that's a mistake from David Zahn. This could be costly.
Oops, Zahn is going to be wishing that hadn't happened. It looks like Kevin has the speed to make a move. I just hope he can do it cleanly.
It's all eyes on this battle as Narwhal in 7th tries to hold off the challenge of Stefano Amode. It's a close race between Stefano Amode and Narwhal in 7th. Hold that thought. The safety car is in play.
Let's not forget about the physical challenge of driving behind the safety car. The drivers need to keep their tires and brakes up to temperature to be ready to attack when the safety car comes in.
It's a real test of skill and endurance for these drivers, but that's why they're the best in the business. Let's see how this plays out.
The only thing closer than Stefano to Narwhal right now is the paint on their cars. Talk about a close encounter.
This race is getting even more intense. The drivers are pushing each other to the limit.
It's like they're playing a game of chicken, but with cars. And the winner gets to take home the checkered flag and bragging rights.
That's one way to put it. These drivers have to be in top physical and mental shape to compete at this level.
It's like they're training for the Olympics. And like you said, the mental fortitude required to stay focused and alert for the entire race is wild.
I think I need a nap just watching them. The safety car is out on track, bringing the pack under control as we deal with some debris on the circuit.
This could be an opportunity for some drivers to pit ahead of the pack.
Of course, the safety car can really shake up the race order. Drivers need to stay alert and be ready to react as soon as we get the green light.
It's a tricky balance. They don't want to waste too much time behind the safety car, but they also don't want to burn out their tires too quickly trying to catch up.
Huge shout out to the admins at ASRL for making this all possible. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be able to witness this incredible event.
That's right, Hal, and the excitement is electric. I can feel it in my circuits. I mean, this is the kind of race that people will be talking about in the bar. We're witnessing history in the making.
The safety car is out on the track and the drivers are slowing down to keep their positions.
This is where strategy comes into play. Do you pit now and risk losing track position, or do you stay out and hope for a quick end to the safety car period?
It's a tough call for the teams and drivers to make. Ada, can you share some strategies that drivers use to manage tire degradation during a race?
Certainly. How? Some strategies include adjusting the car's setup for better tire life, altering driving lines to reduce wear, and using tire management techniques like lift and coast to preserve grip for as long as possible.
And the race is back underway. The safety car period is behind us, and the drivers are eager to get back into the rhythm and chase down their rivals. Braking development. What a move. Stefano Amodei has moved up to 7th. The drivers are getting faster as they settle into their cars and get used to the conditions, with Stefano Amodei just putting in his best lap so far with a 1 minute.
It's always good to see Stefano improving.
It's a game of inches now as Mellero tails Lucas and Crow closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake. Hold on a moment. An impressive showing from Mellero, who has gained positions and left Lucas and Crow in the dust. Wow, it's a close race for second. Lucas and Crow is barely ahead with MkII right on his tail. A gap of only 0.2 seconds. Braking alert. This is a tough break for Lucas and Crow. He just lost P2 to MkII.
That's some bad luck for Lucas and Crow. He just couldn't hold onto it, but he can always regroup and get on the attack.
Looks like Kevin Lekmanski is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. With just 0.3 seconds between them, Lekmanski will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
Oh, this is getting intense. David Zahn is just a few car lengths behind Bjorn Hemmen.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Can David close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
We're watching Narwhal in 5th, and is currently being hounded by Bjorn Hemmen with a gap of just 0.2 seconds.
Absolutely. Narwhal in 5th is doing a fantastic job of maintaining his lead, but he can't afford to make a single mistake. Bjorn Hemmen is looking for any opportunity to make a move. This could be a battle to the finish line.
Hold on a second. A setback for Bjorn Hemmen, who has just been passed. Bjorn Hemmen is trying his best to catch Simon of the Desert.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Bjorn Hemmen should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Simon.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Kevin Lekmanski is chasing MkII in P2. Narwhal is running 5th and trying to catch Lucas and Crow. Narwhal appears to be losing ground on Lucas and Crow. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Clubhouse Bend to get a good exit and gain some ground. It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while.
It's a thrilling battle for position as these two drivers give it their all. This is racing at its finest.
The race is really heating up. MkII is hunting down Mellero with everything he's got. The gap between MkII and Mellero is getting smaller.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
Hold that thought. Big gains for David Zahn as they move up the field, leaving Narwhal behind. Coming in to start-finish, the fight for 5th is heating up. Neither driver wants to be the first to blink. Narwhal is placed 5th at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of David Zahn, who is 0.4 seconds behind. Things are heating up as David Zahn tries to close the gap to Narwhal. The gap between David Zahn and Narwhal is growing. It's now up to 1.0 seconds. The delta between Ryan Wilson in 8th and Simon of the Desert remains over a second, but Ryan Wilson is not letting up.
This is where experience comes into play. Simon has been in this situation before and knows how to defend for position, but Wilson is hungry for success and won't give up easily.
This is a thrilling battle as MkII edges closer to Mellero in their fight for P1.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. MkII needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Kevin Lekmanski is pushing really hard, But as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. This is where the race gets really interesting. Simon of the Desert is closing in on Narwhal. Braking development. It's looking good for Simon of the Desert, who has gained a place after passing Narwhal.
Go, go, go. That's what we want to see. It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Simon is really walking that fine line.
Hold on a moment. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 1 kph out there right now.
The pursuit is on. MkII is closing the gap on MkII, determined to claim P1. The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this.
This is where the mental game comes into play. MkII and MkII both need to stay cool under pressure.
Look at that. Simon of the Desert is hot on the tail of David Zahn.
The racing is getting tight between Simon and Dave as they battle for P4. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Hold on a second. That won't be ideal for Narwhal. Every move counts now as MkII works to reel in MkII and overtake for P1.
The mental game is just as important here. MkII must keep his cool while putting pressure on MkII.
Simon of the Desert is giving it his all, chasing down David Zahn in P4.
Simon is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder like a boss.
The gap between MkII and MkII is razor thin as they vie for first in this nail-biting contest. Hold up. Breaking info. Great driving from MkII, who has just gained a place and moved up to first. I think Kevin Lekmansky is going to try and outbrake ASRL T70 MkII Spyder as they come into Barbecue Bend. This could gain him the place, but it may all end badly. It seems like MkII is struggling. His last lap time was a bit off the pace of Kevin Lekmansky. This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit. Hold that thought. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Kevin Lekmansky gaining places and MkII losing them.
Should things go south between Lekmansky and MkII, we might witness a high-speed game of bumper cars, but trust me, it's way less fun with real race cars.
The pressure is on as MkII tries to catch up to Kevin Lekmansky.
We'll have to wait to see if MkII can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
It's not looking good for MkII, who is still behind Kevin Lekmansky, and the gap is increasing. Simon of the Desert is running fifth and trying to keep up with David Zahn.
The gap is 0.6 seconds now. Simon is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Zahn.
Simon of the Desert needs to find some speed, or maybe get more consistent. He's just put in a slower lap than David Zahn.
It will be interesting to see if Dave can keep outpacing Simon.
The gap between Kevin Lekmansky and MkII is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Kevin to even allow MkII to get a look in. MkII is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Kevin Lekmansky at the moment.
This is where the mental toughness of MkII comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
We often hear drivers complaining about tire graining. Can you explain what that means and how it affects car handling? Hold that thought. I don't think that's the fastest way around Kyalami 1967.
Graining occurs when small rubber particles roll up on the tire's surface, reducing grip and negatively affecting handling. It usually happens when the tires are not in their optimal temperature window or when a driver is pushing too hard on a cold or overworked tire.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Hold that thought. Looks like that's a mistake from MkII. This could be costly. Well, it doesn't look like Simon of the Desert is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone David Zahn.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
It seems like Simon of the Desert is on fire. He's just put in his best lap.
The more laps they do, the faster these guys get. This should make for some great racing, Hal.
Things are going according to plan for MkII, who is currently 5th.
Yes, but MkII has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Ryan Wilson trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Narwhal. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. The gap between Ryan Wilson and Narwhal is widening. It's now up to 4.8 seconds. What do you think, Ada? Are there any specific factors that could lead to a driver losing concentration during a race?
There are several factors, Hal. Fatigue, stress, changing track conditions, or even issues within the team can all contribute to a lapse in concentration. It's essential for drivers to stay mentally resilient and adapt to these challenges.
Things don't seem to be going Simon of the Desert's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Nils Shepard is chasing Ryan Wilson in P7.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Shepard needs to stay patient and wait for Wilson to make a mistake.
It's not going to plan for Nils Shepard, who is trailing behind Ryan Wilson and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
It's not over yet, but Shepard needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Wilson.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Simon of the Desert as there is a big gap ahead.
Simon certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from David.
It looks like we might get a battle between Simon of the Desert and David Zahn.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
Fantastic racing on show here today, and it's not just the top drivers who are impressing us. Even the drivers at the back of the pack are putting up a good fight, battling it out for every position.
It's a testament to the level of competition at ASRL. Even the smallest mistake can cost you valuable seconds, or even lead to a crash. But these drivers are up to the challenge, and they're giving it their all. It's clear that ASRL really is the place to be for top-quality racing.
The gap between Simon of the Desert and MkII is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Simon to even allow MkII to get a look in. Hold on a second. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Well, it doesn't look like Simon of the Desert is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone David Zahn.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
Breaking alert. Oh dear, Nils Shepard has had an incident. The tension is building as Simon of the Desert trails behind David Zahn. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting.
Simon needs to find a little extra speed to bring the fight to Dave and move up the field.
Ryan Wilson is placed 7th at the moment. Oh no, Ada, look at this. Nils Shepard is closing in on Ryan Wilson. The gap is now just 11.1 seconds.
Can Ryan keep Shepard behind? Let's see.
David Zahn is pushing to maintain the lead, while Simon of the Desert is working to close in and challenge for the position.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination.
Simon of the Desert is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to David Zahn to 0.8 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. A driver that stays calm and focused is more likely to come out on top.
Oh, this is getting intense. Simon of the Desert needs to keep David Zahn in his sights. That's not a small gap, but Ryan Wilson has what it takes to challenge for the position.
It's going to be tough for Wilson, as Narwhal seems to have found his rhythm.
Simon of the Desert is running fourth and trying to catch David Zahn. It's certainly not going to plan for Simon of the Desert right now, who is struggling to keep up with David Zahn. A solid performance from Ryan Wilson, who is holding down 7th.
Absolutely, and he'll need to keep driving with determination to stay in that position.
Oh, this is getting intense. Simon of the Desert is just a few car lengths behind David Zahn. Simon of the Desert is on a charge. His split time shows he's upped his pace. Ada, how do racing drivers like yourself train to maintain concentration for long periods of time?
Mental training is a huge part of a driver's preparation, Hal. Techniques like meditation, visualization, and working with sports psychologists can help drivers build their focus and mental endurance for a race.
Simon of the Desert is on a mission, chasing David Zahn, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for MkII, who is currently in P2. Looks like Simon of the Desert is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
It looks like David Zahn is pulling away from Simon of the Desert. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Liucop Bend. Simon of the Desert is looking for a way to close that gap to David Zahn.
Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
While David Zahn is not under immediate threat from Simon of the Desert, he can still benefit from staying focused. Any slip-up could lose him the position. Things are heating up as Simon of the Desert tries to close the gap to David Zahn. It's not looking good for Simon of the Desert, who is still behind David Zahn, and the gap is increasing. Well, it looks like we have a bit of a traffic jam on the track.
It's like rush hour out there. I mean, I know we're in a race, but can't we all just get along?
You can wish all you want, but I don't think that's how racing works, Ada. These drivers are here to win, and they'll do whatever it takes to get ahead.
I guess you're right, but wouldn't it be great if they all just stopped for high fives and fist bumps?
The pressure is on as Simon of the Desert works on catching up to David Zahn. Looking at the lap times, Simon of the Desert is not currently on pace with David Zahn. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time.
Hopefully Simon can find some of that missing time and get it back.
It's looking good for Kevin Lekmansky, sitting in first. Excellent work from Kevin Lekmansky, who has managed to increase his lead over MkII.
It's really looking like Lekmansky is going to be tough to pass today. He's driving with real confidence and authority.
It's all about consistency for Ryan Wilson, who is currently 8th.
Definitely, but he can't get too comfortable. There are plenty of other drivers gunning for that position, and Wilson has to keep pushing to stay on the pace.
A strong showing from David Zahn, who is currently 3rd.
Definitely Hal, but Dave can't afford to get complacent. This race is going to require focus and intensity.
Impressive stuff from David Zahn, who has managed to pull away from Simon of the Desert, leaving him choking in his exhaust fumes. Ryan Wilson is placed 8th at the moment.
Yes, but Wilson has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
It seems like Ryan Wilson is struggling and not able to maintain his pace.
This may not be a track that Wilson is familiar with, which can be a pleasant challenge or an annoyance at being off pace.
Simon of the Desert has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with David Zahn. I expect his only hope at this point is that David makes an error. Hold that thought. Simon of the Desert is pitting. David Zahn will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Zahn in P3 doing everything he can to catch up.
This is where the true champions shine, and Kevin Lekmanski is certainly showing his class in the final sector.
He's going to need to make some more room on that trophy shelf back home.
It's all over. Kevin Lekmanski has claimed victory in this race with a stunning drive that will be remembered for years to come. Clearly at the top of his game right now.
What a display of skill and precision.
What a fantastic race from MkII, who brings it home in second place. That was an outstanding performance from David Zahn. He fought hard and took the final spot on the podium. Breaking news, folks. A great moment for David Zahn, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
You can't argue with results like that. David is really making his mark on this race. Great job bringing it home.
In 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th, it's Melero, Narwhal, Bjorn Hemmen, and Ryan Wilson. Taking 12th is Jake Feemster. It's a very still day here at Kyalami 1967, as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The tension's building now. This is going to be another great race.
Starting from pole position is a great opportunity for Narwhal to take control of the race.
He can't afford to get complacent. He will have a target on his back now.
Melero will be looking to convert this front row start into a win.
He will have to keep his foot on the gas in order to stay at the sharp end of the grid.
At third, we have the one and only David Zahn.
Let's see what David can do.
The fourth position is occupied by MkII.
He's going to have to be quick out of the blocks to keep up with the top performers.
On the fifth grid slot we have Kevin Lekmanski.
Starting from here, Lekmanski may already have expectations of a podium finish.
Sitting in sixth at Simon of the Desert.
Simon will be expecting to bring home solid points.
Our seventh place starter, Bjorn Hemmen, is a driver who knows how to make up ground on the track. Starting from the 8th position, Ryan Wilson will need to navigate through the field to challenge for the win. From the middle of the pack, we have Stefano Amodei in 9th place on the starting grid.
The American driver has been driving the wheels off the ASRL T70 MkII Spyder in practice.
Lucas Crow is lining up 10th.
He's going to have to time his moves just right to move up the grid during the race.
Jake Feemster has some work to do from 11th on the grid, but he's not out of the race yet.
Jake has the potential for a great result if he can maintain proper focus and avoid unnecessary incidents.
The lights are off, the gloves are on, and it's go time.
The opening lap is often a hotbed of potential problems. The ability to steer clear of any mishaps will set the stage for a successful race.
Races are often more about maintaining consistency than having outright pace, but it doesn't hurt to have a little good luck every now and then. As the tires come up to temp, their available grip is changing, and the drivers that manage this transition best are likely to make progress through the field.
Like gladiators, they enter hell, but instead of lions and swords, our champions fight in an arena of tarmac, and with fire-breathing machines of cutting-edge materials, designed to explore the very limits of physics itself in what can sometimes be very much a fight to the death.
This is going to be one hell of a race, I can already feel it.
Every corner, every lap, and every race is a chance for these drivers to hone their abilities and improve their skills.
As the drivers get this race underway, let me give a shout out to the admin team at ASRL for making this all possible. Heroes one and all.
I'd love to be on track burning some rubber here, Hal.
Jake Feemster is showing some real determination, making up positions right away.
It's too early to count chickens just yet. A race isn't won in the first lap, but I've seen plenty end there.
It's a steady race for Stefano Amodei so far, keeping it clean and maintaining focus.
Consistency is key in racing. Stefano just needs to keep doing what he's doing and wait for opportunities to present themselves.
In your experience, Ada, what was the most important aspect of managing tire degradation during a race? Hold on a moment. I don't think that's the fastest way around Kyalami 1967.
The most important aspect, Hal, was maintaining a good balance between pushing hard and conserving tires. Finding the sweet spot between aggression and tire preservation was key to optimizing race pace and strategy.
Bjorn Hemmen is looking to take advantage of that slipstream being so close to David Zahn. That's going to provide the extra speed to challenge for the position. Breaking update. That won't be ideal for David Zahn.
It's an intense race between these two drivers, and Bjorn Hemmen is going to have to try something here.
The battle for P9 is heating up as MkII tries to catch David Zahn in P9. There's not much to report on from MkII at the moment. He's just keeping his head down and putting in consistent laps. If everything goes as planned, this is going to be a race for the ages.
The drivers are executing their strategies to perfection, making the most of every opportunity. This is what top-level racing is all about.
Stefano Amodei is on a mission, chasing Bjorn Hemmen, who's currently got a comfortable lead.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Stefano needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
Hold that thought. Looks like that's a mistake from Bjorn Hemmen. This could be costly.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race, he'd been looking at a decent result.
It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce.
MkII is so close to Zahn that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
The race is really heating up. Kevin Lekmansky is hunting down Narwhal with everything he's got. Hold on a second. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. It seems like MkII is getting in range of David Zahn.
If MkII gets too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
MkII is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. It looks like MkII is making a move. The gap to David Zahn is now down to 0.4 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. Hard-fought battles with as much determination as respect, between friends and enemies alike.
Every move counts now as Kevin Lekmansky works to reel in Narwhal and overtake for P1.
It's a game of strategy now as Lekmansky hunts down Narwhal. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
This is where the race gets really interesting. MkII is closing in on David Zahn. A brilliant maneuver from MkII, who has just moved up the field.
Absolutely. MkII is really putting on a clinic out there, and he's making it look easy.
The pressure is on as Jake Feemster tries to catch up to Stefano Amodei.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Kevin Lekmansky is chasing Narwhal in P1.
Lekmansky needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Narwhal.
Look at that, Jake Feemster is hot on the tail of Stefano Amodei. It's game on now. Jake Feemster has closed the gap to Stefano Amodei. It's now down to 0.1 seconds.
Exactly what Jake needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Stefano.
Kevin Lekmansky is giving it his all chasing down Narwhal in P1.
The gap between them is now just over 0.3 seconds.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
This is where every inch counts. Stefano is pushing hard to close the gap on Feemster. Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
This is a thrilling battle as Kevin Lekmansky edges closer to Narwhal in their fight for P1. The gap between Kevin Lekmansky and Narwhal is growing. It's now up to 0.6 seconds. Things are heating up as Stefano Amodei tries to close the gap to Jake Feemster.
With just 0.4 seconds between them, Stefano will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
And Stefano Amodei has just won the place from Jake Feemster.
Absolutely. Stefano is showing great pace and determination, but he can't get too confident. There are still plenty of challenges ahead.
Jake Feemster wants to get into Stefano Amodei's slipstream.
And if you're enjoying the racing, please remember to like and subscribe.
Kevin Lekmansky is looking for a way round Narwhal.
I might have said this before, but dog, bone, you know the rest.
The adrenaline is pumping as Jake Feemster gets within striking distance of Stefano Amodei in their race for fifth. Stop the press. Fantastic move from Jake Feemster, who has just gained a position.
This battle between Jake and Stefano is so intense, you could cut the tension with a knife, or should I say, with a front wing.
Stop the press. A great pass for Kevin Lekmansky, swapping places with Narwhal to move up the field. We got a close battle as Kevin Lekmansky closes in on Narwhal.
When I was racing, we had a saying, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. Kevin is definitely living on the edge today.
The battle for P7 is heating up as Jake Feemster tries to catch Bjorn Hemmen in P7.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Feemster should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Bjorn Hemmen.
Kevin Lekmansky is on a mission, chasing Narwhal, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. The pursuit is on. MkII is closing the gap on Simon of the Desert, determined to claim P3. It seems like MkII is pushing hard, currently on track to record his best lap so far this race. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
Oh, this is getting intense. Jake Feemster is just a few car lengths behind Bjorn Hemmen. Jake Feemster appears to be losing ground on Bjorn Hemmen. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Clubhouse Bend to get a good exit and gain some ground.
Feemster really needs to push in Clubhouse Bend to gain some ground before Bjorn Hemmen drives off into the sunset.
The pursuit is on. MkII is working on that gap to Simon of the Desert, determined to claim P3.
It's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Hold the phone. Superb driving from Ryan Wilson, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
Impressive. Ryan is really showing his skill and determination out there.
Looks like Ryan Wilson is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. Ryan is looking to close the 0.3 second gap and make a pass.
I'm sure Jake Feemster in 7th is starting to notice Bjorn Hemmen is right on his tail, and is still closing the gap.
This could be where Bjorn Hemmen is going to dive up the inside. Feemster is going to need to cover the inside, and that will compromise his exit speed.
Hold on to your hats, folks. Bjorn Hemmen is right on the heels of Jake Feemster, and we're in for a wild ride.
If this battle ends in tears, it could be like watching a high-speed domino effect. Let's hope they keep it clean and avoid any unplanned off-track excursions.
Kevin Lekmansky is running second, and trying to catch Narwhal.
The mental game is just as important here. Lekmansky must keep his cool while putting pressure on Narwhal.
Simon of the Desert is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
The racing is getting tight between Simon and MkII as they battle for P3. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
The gap between David Zahn and Adam Keefe is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from David Zahn to bring Adam Keefe into play.
That's right, and Adam Keefe knows to keep pushing hard and driving his own race. He can't let Dave off the hook.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Simon of the Desert is closing in on MkII.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
Stefano Amodei wants to find a way round Ryan Wilson.
And Stefano is poised to capitalize on any mistake. It's just a matter of who cracks first.
Adam Keefe is giving it his all, chasing down David Zahn in P9.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can Adam Keefe close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Rising to the occasion and claiming victory would help to cement Kevin Lekmansky's legendary status. Kevin Lekmansky is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Narwhal at the moment. The pressure is on as Simon of the Desert tries to catch up to MkII. The gap between Simon of the Desert and MkII is getting smaller. Adam Keefe is looking for an opportunity to get around David Zahn.
He'll need to keep it on the road, or at the very least the rumble strips. The fastest way around is not usually in the grass. As the saying goes, too much grass will slow you down.
Incredible. Adam Keefe is caught in a fierce battle, with breathing down his neck 0.1 seconds away, and Dave just ahead with a gap of 0.2 seconds. It's a test of his racing skills.
Absolutely. How? The gaps to the cars ahead and behind are like windows of opportunity for Adam Keefe. He'll need to assess the timing and make a move wisely to maximize his chances.
The race is really heating up. Jake Feemster is hunting down Stefano Amodei with everything he's got.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Jake needs to stay patient and wait for Stefano to make a mistake.
Things are heating up as Adam Keefe closes in on David Zahn. The gap between them is down to practically nothing. This is a thrilling battle as Simon of the Desert edges closer to MkII in their fight for P3.
Simon is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that ASRL T70 MkII Spyder like a boss.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Jake Feimster has just put in a faster lap than Stefano Amodei, so that's going to give him something to worry about.
As long as Jake can maintain that consistency and pace, it will be interesting to see.
Look at that, Simon of the Desert is hot on the tail of MkII. It looks like we might get a battle between Simon of the Desert and MkII. Every move counts now as Jake Feimster works to reel in Stefano Amodei and overtake for P6. It's certainly not going to plan for Jake Feimster right now, who is struggling to keep up with Stefano Amodei.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
Things are heating up as Simon of the Desert tries to close the gap to MkII. Simon of the Desert is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to MkII to 0.1 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
I love being here at Kyalami 1967, what an awesome place to be witnessing these titans of the track battle it out.
Indeed, Hal, what a magnificent sight and sound. I love listening to the roar of these engines. Let's just listen for a moment.
Simon of the Desert is on a mission, chasing MkII, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The gap is 0.4 seconds now. Simon is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with MkII.
Oh, this is getting intense. Kevin Lekmansky is just a few car lengths behind Narwhal. It seems like Kevin Lekmansky has got the bit between his teeth, improving on Narwhal's lap time there. Simon of the Desert is running fourth, and trying to catch MkII.
It's a game of strategy now as Simon hunts down MkII. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The pursuit is on. Jake Feimster is closing the gap on Stefano Amodei, determined to claim P6. Jake Feimster has just managed to set his fastest lap of the race so far with a lap time of 1 minute.
If he can keep up that pace or even improve it, then this could make Feimster a real challenge for Stefano.
Kevin Lekmansky is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Simon of the Desert is giving it his all, chasing down MkII in P3. The pressure is on as Kevin Lekmansky tries to catch up to Narwhal.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Lekmansky needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
It looks like Stefano Amodei is all over Jake Feimster going through the S's, increasing the pressure and hoping for a mistake.
There is no room for error in this battle.
Bjorn Hemmen has the pedal to the metal, chasing David Zahn.
For sure, Hal. That's exactly what I would be doing here, as Zahn is going to be aware of him riding his bumper.
The race is really heating up. Kevin Lekmansky is hunting down Narwhal with everything he's got.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Lekmansky needs to be careful not to overdo it.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Stefano Amodei is closing in on Jake Feimster.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
Stefano Amodei is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 0.75 seconds down. The battle for P1 is heating up as Kevin Lekmansky tries to catch Narwhal in P1.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
Looks like Simon of the Desert is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
The action is non-stop as Kevin Lekmansky shadows Narwhal through every twist and turn, determined to claim first. Hold on a moment. Big gains for Kevin Lekmansky as they move up the field, leaving Narwhal behind.
It looks like Lekmansky wants to take a cheeky peek up the inside.
Things are getting spicy now, as Narwhal and Kevin Lekmansky look to battle it out for first place. Hold that thought. It's true what they say, Ada, you're never completely useless.
Indeed, Hal, you can always be used as a bad example.
A tough moment for Narwhal, who has just lost a place, now in 6th. Oh, this is getting intense. Simon of the Desert is just behind MkII. Breaking update. Oh dear, Narwhal has had an incident.
Kyalami 1967 is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes. A misjudgment by either driver could result in a close encounter of the tire barrier kind, and that's one handshake they'll want to avoid.
Look at that, Simon of the Desert is hot on the tail of MkII. Simon of the Desert could be on a charge here, Ada. He's just put in a quicker lap than MkII.
We will have to see if MkII has got any answers for that.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Bjorn Hemmen is chasing David Zahn in P8.
With just 0.5 seconds between them, Bjorn Hemmen will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
It seems like Simon of the Desert is getting in range of MkII.
Rubbing's racing, but let's just hope they don't rub it too hard.
Every move counts now as Bjorn Hemmen works to reel in David Zahn and overtake for P8.
This is where every inch counts. Bjorn Hemmen is pushing hard to close the gap on Zahn. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Simon should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to MkII.
This is a thrilling battle as Bjorn Hemmen edges closer to David Zahn in their fight for P7. It looks like Bjorn Hemmen is making a move. The gap to David Zahn is now down to 0.3 seconds.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
Hold on a moment. Great driving from MkII, who has just gained a place and moved up to 2nd.
That's what we like to see. MkII is really showing his class today.
This is what it's all about, folks. MkII is in hot pursuit of Simon of the Desert, who's just trying to stay ahead.
If MkII pushes too hard, he might end up taking the scenic route, and nobody's got time for sightseeing during a race.
While speeding through Barbecue Bend, Simon of the Desert is relentlessly pursuing MkII in a high-stakes battle for position. It looks like MkII is pulling away from Simon of the Desert. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Sunset Bend.
This is not ideal for Simon, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Bjorn Hemmen is on a mission, chasing David Zahn, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
Simon of the Desert wants to close that gap with MkII.
If Simon gets too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
Simon of the Desert is on a charge. His split time shows he's upped his pace. Oh, this is getting intense. Simon of the Desert is just a few car lengths behind MkII. The race is heating up as MkII in ninth closes in on Bjorn Hemmen.
Bjorn Hemmen is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace.
The pursuit is on. Simon of the Desert is closing the gap on MkII, determined to claim P2. Good news for Simon of the Desert, the gap to MkII has decreased. It's now down to 0.3 seconds. On the final lap now, and MkII might just wrap up this win.
It takes a special kind of driver to perform under pressure like this. Kevin has certainly risen to the occasion.
The leader has just finished the race. A fantastic result for Kevin Lekmansky.
And that's why Kevin is one of the best in the business. A dominant display of driving from start to finish, leaving the rest of the pack in the dust.
A nail-biting finish, but MkII claims second place. Impressive drive from Simon of the Desert to claim the final spot on the podium. Fourth, fifth, and sixth sees Stefano Amode, Jake Feemster, and Ryan Wilson. David Zahn takes 7th. Bjorn Hemmen end in 8th. Coming in 11th we have Lukashen Crow. MkII brings home 9th.